This episode is brought to you by Rick's Eyewear. Eyewear that inspires confidence. If you would like to buy some premium eyewear, sunglasses, blue light frames, prescription, head online now, rickseyewear.com.au and check it out. Caps has been Australia's home of headwear since 2012. From snapback to fitted, curved peak to flat peak, our hats will fit anyone and everyone. Since then, we've grown and evolved into the leaders of US sports apparel in Australia. Head online at caps.com.au and check it out. Righto, let's get into the show.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of Aces in Business. I do have to say an apology for last week, Tommy. I left you hanging with Nick and Dan Russian, but mate, you held the fort.
High and dry, mate.
High and dry.
The call, the day
It was
before.
one of our best episodes, and I wasn't here because I was sick.
Ratings through the roof.
Yeah, oh my God, mate.
It wasn't the guest, mate. It was the host.
I know, and you always worry about your own hosting and your own sort of skill on your own, but mate, you were more than comfortable. But a great episode, listeners. One to check out if you're very interested in the hospitality space. Two of the best in the business, especially in Melbourne. They really do run the show. But more importantly, I'm very excited today because a friend of mine, an absolute genius, I think, but not just here for his good looks and his great smile, but a very, very smart and calculated man, and the co-founder of Alya, the skinwear brand, the beauty brand, I guess, the product. It's amazing the journey that it's been on. But more importantly, James, thank you for coming on the show, mate.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it. Thank you, boys.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Now we've crossed paths a lot of times over the past few years, so I feel like I've seen your journey grow with this product and brand for a while, but without knowing any of the detail, we're going to have to go into it because I'm fascinated by it. But outside of, I guess, the product and what you do, mate, can you tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, for those that don't know you?
Born and raised in Melbourne. Family kind of guy. Love spending time with the fam and my parents and brothers and sisters, and I've got a lot of cousins, being Lebanese culture. And really just love having a good time, love traveling, love sports, and just love being with the boys. Having a good time.
We love sports. Now, are you an American sports fan as well?
Yeah. I actually just went to the Super Bowl in February.
Oh, man, I'm so
jealous. To watch the Rams and the Bengals. That was a great experience.
Oh, man.
Big NBA fan as well.
LeBron James, enthusiast, I think, to put it lightly.
Yeah,
big LeBron. What are your thoughts on him not making the playoffs? It's
I feel like a lot of it is to blame on the coach. A lot of it is to blame on Russell Westbrook. But I think that he definitely has a lot of blame on himself as well for putting that team together. Him and Russ play too much of a same position, and it just didn't work well. Like that was never really going to work. Everyone said it wasn't going to work. Yeah. But I think he's still got a few years left.
It's crazy to me how he's like.
I think he's got a few years left.
Like for you, because I know we've all grown up in the generation where LeBron's been the guy, but like even like in the soccer world with Cristiano Ronaldo and stuff, these guys at that age playing at the level they do. It's fascinating to me now because like 10 years ago, people were retiring like
modern medicine,
retired at 28 over here.
People just forget how old he is. Like, he's 36 years old or 37, I think now. Or in December, he's 37. And to be doing what he's doing, it's never going to happen again.
Yeah.
And I think he's just really like had an exceptionally long career. And he's been successful every year.
But one thing that I kind of hate is that we judge people on their age, not their performance. I don't know why we all turn on blokes when it's like their age is, say they're over 32 or 3. As soon as an AFL player doesn't get 30, he's getting old and slow.
Yeah.
NBA, he's getting old and slow. It's time for him to wrap it up, move him out of the key position, get him off the bench. Like, it just should be performance-based. And LeBron, he had fucking one of the best seasons of all time. He ain't slowing down. He might have 5 left in him, the way he's going.
I feel like he's just going to keep evolving his game to be effective too. Like, even if he's not contributing one area, he's still going to, run the court.
Have you been to many games, and what was your best game you've ever been to?
I've been to a bunch of NBA games, but probably when I went to, I think it was Lakers versus Clippers opening round 2 years ago.
I was there that night. That's when I met you. Yeah, that's when we met. Yeah.
You were with a few of the other boys.
Yeah, with Timmy and Harry.
That's right. Yeah. That was probably the best NBA game I've been to. Even though it was a Clippers home game, it was still so loud, and there were a lot of Lakers supporters. And I guess like the anticipation of having a super team for both LA teams was quite remarkable. But they just do it a lot better over there.
Do you remember Kawhi coming out at the start and he's like got the mic and he's just so awkward.
Was that the hey? No, it wasn't.
No, it
Hachem,
wasn't.
was it?
No,
Oh, thank God.
he's very old.
Mate, it's not his thing.
He just said something like, what's up? It's like, he's just not made for that kind of stuff.
I actually want to ask you too, just because I know you both have gone to a lot of American sport. You both love America and been there more than me. One, as like a viewer going to one of the sports, which one is the best to experience? Like not just like the sport itself, but the whole experience of being there. And two, as like a business operation, which sort of American sport organization impresses you the most?
Out of NFL and NBA?
Everything. Any American sport, baseball, UFC, whatever it is.
I would probably say, like, in terms of watching, I think NFL is a better sport overall. It's so technical that it's such a team sport, and like every single play counts. There's only 17 games a year.
Yeah.
Whereas the NBA, there's 82 games. They're not even trying half the time until playoffs. But as a live sport, I would say NBA is a better live sport just because of the crowd, the atmosphere.
It's quick.
But I haven't been to say Arrowhead in Kansas. I've been to the Ram Stadium and the Chiefs and the Charger Stadium. So it's that, LA supporters aren't as crazy as say some of the other cities in the US.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I agree with that. I think NFL it's more important. Each game matters much more. But in terms of entertainment, they're both really good. But I mean, NBA, it's almost just as entertaining when they're not playing basketball.
Yeah.
The shit
it's
they're
like
doing.
A soap opera.
Yeah. The stuff that's kiss cam and dance cam and whatever cam, and there's something going on the court. They're doing giveaways, blindfolding people. The AFL should take a little bit of a few notes, but I love when they do something at quarter time breaks and all that. It's actually really entertaining, especially when you're sitting down having a beer. It's just non-stop action.
Do you know what's interesting? Our mutual friend Tommy Bug, he told me like he's one of his best, and obviously it's a bit foreign to us, but the UFC, like that whole experience as well. He was telling me about it. I'm like, mate, that blew my mind. It's like a bucket list thing you almost have to go to, the way it's run, the whole entertainment factor behind the fights.
Yeah. But again, it's like different arenas have different experiences. Like I've been to Madison Square Garden for the UFC, one of the best experiences I've ever had. Then I've been to T-Mobile Arena, and it just wasn't anywhere as good.
Yeah.
Because the New York fans are they're in another planet. Like they are absolutely crazy people, and the crowd and just like the sound in Madison Square Garden is something that you like. That's why there's a reason as to why it's the best arena in the world.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
I wanted to talk about, before we get into business, I want to talk about your father and how he's the king. He's the king with the poker. But first of all, without talking about your old man, how do you go when you play poker?
I'm probably the worst in the family.
But when you say that, are you still very good?
No, I'm not very good. I'm an okay player at best, but my brothers are pretty good. One of them particularly is I think his like mindset with the game is, second to none, and he understands the game really well. I think he had like a 79th finish in the WSOP main event maybe 2 years ago out of like 6,500, and that was equivalent to that was the same tournament that my dad won back in 2005. And he was only 22 at the time. So he's probably the best, but they're both very good. Daniel, my middle brother, is probably better at cash games, and Anthony, my oldest brother, is probably better at tournaments.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so they're quite competitive between them.
Is it like every other sport? Like the more time and effort and like training you do, you get better, 100%. Or is it? So it is.
You guys both know as professional athletes, in your time that nothing comes easy, and unless you're constantly studying and practicing, you will not be able to keep up with the competition.
You need to be obsessive, don't you?
100%. You need to be obsessive. You need to, like, both of them watch YouTube videos. They both read books. They both play all the time. And if they didn't so, then they wouldn't be anywhere as good as what they are now.
Yeah.
And for them, like, they both have full-time jobs. They run businesses. They're able to just use poker on the side as just, like a hobby where they can make some money from it because they're good.
Yeah. So is it like that? Is it deemed a sport? Like really? Because
a lot of people are trying to fight for that in Australia, and the fact that it got banned a few years ago, or maybe actually 8 years ago now, is interesting because they allow sports bet and all these other betting agencies like Ladbrokes and Betfair, but they banned online poker. Right. So they didn't want, I guess, sports bet and all these other companies. They didn't really want. They didn't want the competition. Because it was blowing up in Australia at one point. Like PokerStars I think they ended up selling for 4.3 billion 8 years ago. And that's just
8 years ago.
Yeah, 8 years ago.
Unbelievable.
So it's a money-making machine. But the best thing about poker, the reason why they say it's a sport, it's because it's me versus you.
Yeah.
When you're gambling, actually gambling, you're playing against the casino. So you're against the house. So you can never win against the house. Whereas even though you guys may not be as good as me at poker, you can still potentially beat me in a tournament.
Right.
Yeah. Like the best players don't win all the time because there's a little bit of luck involved, but it's always like, we're always playing against each other. And the only way the casinos and make money in poker is they just take a little clip, like a very small clip of the actual prize pool. But they don't, they only run poker tournaments just to bring people into the casino. They don't profit from it because it's just not profit. They would rather have a blackjack table there,
Right.
in Crown, rather than a poker table where they're making $5 a hand.
Yeah.
So idiots like me walk in and just go, not again.
What would be, for us idiots that play, what's like the most important aspect of poker, or a tip that you could give the average player?
Patience is probably the biggest key when you're a beginner, and also like trying to concentrate on the table to see if you can find out any tells from anyone else on the table.
Do you find it really tough playing with a lunatic like myself who comes in and just going wild and you just like can't read the moves?
yeah, but in the long run, you always get beaten because there will come a time where I actually do have something and you'll just be beaten like most of the time. Like out of 10 times, if you're playing badly, then you only have a chance to win 3 out of 10, I reckon.
So a once-off game wouldn't be the easiest game, would it?
No, it wouldn't be, but it would still be, you could still have some sort of hope of winning.
Yeah.
Some sort of hope. If you ran like really good and you got a lot of good cards and I made a mistake, for instance, or I wasn't, aggressive enough.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to it. That's why they say it's a sport, because there's a lot of like technicalities to it with the thinking rather than just what cards you've got.
Right.
Whereas blackjack is just pure luck. Actually, even in blackjack, you can improve your odds in blackjack if you play perfect blackjack. You can take it from like a 40, I think the odds are 51-49, so 51% in favor of the casinos. That's if you play perfect. If you play badly like I do, I'm not a good blackjack player, well then my odds may be only 45%.
Right.
So
it's funny when you break all down,
mate.
It's almost boring.
His brain is moving at a different pace talking about that to us.
I'm going to Crown tonight. I appreciate you sharing. And when you play poker, you've played with a lot of people, a lot of fun games, some serious games. But who are some of the coolest people that you've played poker with personally?
I would say probably when I was younger, when Australia was at the peak, we had like a small like fun game with Matt Damon.
Wow, that's amazing.
Zac Efron. They're probably the two biggest, like Hollywood global stars. And then we went to dinner with them and so on. And they were really nice guys. But as I've gotten older, probably had the chance and opportunity to play with a lot of cool athletes and cool people through Shane Warne, the legend. And we were lucky enough to play home games with him once a month in his garage, in his house, and he would just always have, someone cool there, whether they be like an international cricket star or an athlete or an actor or an actress or a DJ. So yeah, we were fortunate enough to be part of that home game and, meet a lot of cool people.
It is such sad news for everyone. He's such a king, and he'll be sorely lost.
Absolutely.
Just on Shane, he's I don't know him. I've never met him. I used to live with Toby Green. He's met him. Everyone I know that's met him, they've all got stories about Shane. You just gave us a bit of an insight, but what was Shane like as a person? And then also, what are some of the coolest times you've spent with Shane?
As a person, he was one of the most like generous, caring, kind people I've ever met. Like he did a lot for me, and I felt so lucky just to be, in his life, but he also treated me like a son at times. It was only 3 months ago where I messaged him and I was in London. I said, look, do you mind if I stay at your place? And he replied within a minute and said, of course, you can stay there for as long as you want. I think, if you don't know him, the one thing that a lot of people you heard a lot since his past was that like how close he was with his kids and how much of a family man he was. Like he loved them, his kids so much, and he would do anything for them. And I guess like his legacy was always his kids. Like that's all he cared about. He didn't care about the life that he lived. He never bragged. Like the fact that he could just I could be at a poker game with him and he could be messaging Ed Sheeran in front of me. Like that doesn't happen. Do you know what I mean? Like that doesn't happen with anyone. But he didn't even talk about it. He didn't brag. All he wanted to talk about was like, oh, have you seen Jackson lately, James? Have you been hanging out with him? How is he? Can you make sure that, for your birthday that you guys have a drink, or for his birthday that you have a drink with him. Like, that's all he cared about.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a testament to the person that he was and how much of a great father he was.
That's one of the things that's come out, since his passing that I wasn't shocked by, because I knew he's a very generous man, but like the depth of and the amount of people that have shared like these little stories of just like little things that he would do for people, or like a phone call he would give to check in, or just like things that don't get trophies, don't get recognized. There was so many of them, like just publicized, and it's like just made you realize like, fuck, this guy was so different to just being the best cricketer in the world. He was like an absolute like genuine person.
Yeah, well, genuine is the thing that comes across. He's real, and people relate to it. And he's and that's why everyone loved him.
Yeah, he's a legend he was a legend of a person and a good family man, and I think he's going to be missed for a very, very, very long time.
Absolutely, long live the king, mate.
How was he at poker?
He was very competitive, super competitive. He was good. He was a good tournament player. I think he ran deep in a lot of tournaments, but he was so competitive, and he loved his poker more than anything. Like, he loved poker just as much as he loved his St Kilda Football Club. Like, they were both just on par with each other. But yeah, he was actually a pretty good player, and he was very, very passionate about it. And him and his son Jackson played a lot together, and they were traveling the world at one point, traveling Australia at one point. So it was a big, big passion of his.
What's the one of my mates, he goes, I mentioned that you got a great relationship, and he loves Warnie, and there's that many stories. What's the funniest story that you've got of Shane Warne?
When we were at the Wynn in Vegas, we went out to, I think I was like 21 years old, and he was staying at the Wynn, and so was my family. And he said, look, James, I'm going to get a table at, I think it was XS. So he goes, which is like the best club in Vegas. He goes, I'm going to get a table at XS. It's going to be me, I think it was Havana Brown, her fiance at the time, my uncle, and myself. And he goes, let's just go get drunk, but I don't want to get too drunk. I'm playing poker the next day. So we get there, and he said, look, my biggest weakness is fireball shots. So he said, if I start getting, if you start drinking too much, then just, tell me to drink vodka instead of fireball shots. Next thing you know, he's ordered 2 bottles of fireball shots. He's drank both of them. I'm not joking. Like, he didn't drink. Shane didn't party a lot. Like, from what I saw, he didn't party a lot at all. He was like once every 3 months that I would ever see him drunk. But when he drank, he would drink. Like, he'd have a good time, especially in an environment like that where you're in the best club, one of the best clubs in the world.
Just go for it.
So anyway, he's having a good time and so on. And I said, hey, look, drink some vodka. He's like, nah. He's like, I've started. I'm drinking fireball shots. Let's just have a big night, have a good night. Next thing you know, my uncle and I are literally carrying him into his room. We're walking through the Wynn Casino, which is a 5-star hotel, very pretentious, and like people are looking, and he's midway through, he stopped to throw up in one of the bins.
I think that's why we love him so much, because he'd bowl leg spin and take 8 wickets. Literally. And then you hear these stories and like, we can relate.
I love it. He's like, keep me accountable. What do you say in the morning when you wake up with a headache?
Just give me vodka.
He's just like, I told you that I love fireball shots.
That's unbelievable.
Hey, you love fireball, are you? The great man got me some of the electric on the weekend.
He's great on a night out. That's without
that's
question.
Brilliant, mate. Thanks for sharing. It's that's awesome. Well, this goes into the main segment here where we talk about the business side of things.
Shall we talk business, Tommy? Let's
talk business, mate.
I'm ready.
Now, Alya Skin, mate, this pink clay mask, that you started, before we go into obviously the journey that's been, what was sort of, I guess, the light bulb moment? What were the pre-discussions when you started thinking of going into the beauty industry?
So I had just like graduated from economics and finance, and my business partner had just sold his teeth whitening business for, I think it was like $1 million. No, it was a few $100,000 at like, I don't know, he was like maybe 20 years old and I was 20 at the time. And I was selling hoverboards online. And when I was younger, I was selling fake IDs, like not really fake, but they were kind of, you could buy them online and resell them. So they weren't illegal, but they, fake enough. And I'd always had a interest to just sell things. And so had my business partner, and we said, look, let's get into business together. I guess we can ride the highs and lows together. And that's always like one of my pieces of advice, like, when you're a young entrepreneur, experiencing it with someone else that you trust and that you have the same values with is so much more fun. Like, we now, if we have a good moment, we're together and we have a good night out, or we go to a dinner and we celebrate. And if it's, not such a good moment, then we both lift each other up. So at the time, we saw a lot of girls posting on Instagram and Facebook with clay masks. And we just thought, let's make our own, and let's make it our own. Like, let's launch something that's different to the market. So we launched an Australian pink clay mask using Australian pink clay, and we added like a rose scent to it. A lot of the scents in the clay masks at the time were like they just smelled like clay. They had no scent really. So it was a bit boring, a bit bland. And at the time, a lot of the clay masks that we had tried, they had actually like dried out your skin. So we wanted it to leave your skin feeling soft. So you need a moisturizer right after it. So we added different clays to it and also used less percentage of clay. That way, that when you remove the clay mask, your skin was still left feeling moist and refreshing. And then we thought, I only had like $15,000 at the time because I was 20 years old. Manny had just sold a business, but still he didn't want to, I guess, overinvest. So we thought, let's just put $15,000 in each, and then we'll use an Amex. So he had an Amex that he was using for one of his other businesses that had a limit of $50,000. And we bought 3,000 units. We built the website ourselves. And then we just sent out to a bunch of micro-influencers to start. And that's how we started. And we thought we would just start with one product because we couldn't afford to buy 10 products.
Right.
So we thought, let's just start with one product. Let's work our asses off with PR and influencers to build the brand around this product that we knew was good because we tried it with focus groups and so on. And then we thought we'd build a brand around that.
Amazing. How many influencers, when you had the PR company, how many influencers did they gift at the start to get this thing off the ground?
No, we actually did it ourselves.
Oh, you did
we were
yourself?
doing all the PR ourselves and all the influencers. We gifted maybe 1,000 micro-influencers.
So you went all out.
Correct. So at the time, it was the cheapest way to get the product into hundreds of people's hands.
And micro influencers to you, what is that like? 1,000 to a couple thousand
Honestly,
followers?
any female or male that doesn't want to be paid in exchange for a post.
That's
and,
so smart.
and when we reached out to the micro influencers, we didn't actually even ask them to post at the time. We just said, look, we want to send you some product. Please try it. If you love it, then we would love for you to post. If you don't, then you don't need to post. Because the way that we thought of it is that our only expense is shipping and cogs. So we wouldn't have to pay for them. So if they didn't post, we still actually sent the product to someone, and we thought, chances are even if they don't post, they'll like it. They'll tell someone.
Right.
Yeah. Word of mouth.
Correct. That's what we thought. So even I reckon to this day, 4 years on, I think we've sent to 50,000 to 100,000 micro influencers.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah.
Man.
We have a database of like 300,000 girls.
That's incredible. And is there plenty that you still have from day one that are like kind of VIPs?
Yeah. So what we do is we used to give out a discount code so we can track their sales to see how well it's selling. And the ones that have supported us for the last 4 years, we just continue just to gift them, and we don't even ask for a post back.
Yeah.
Like if they've worked with us in the past multiple times and we release a new product, then we'll just send them a product. And if they want to post, great. If not, we don't really mind.
What year did you launch all this?
2018, January.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy, man. It seems like it's been around. So it's not that long, really, when you think about it, but it feels like it's been around for so long.
Yeah, it goes so quick though.
Yeah, rapid, mate.
It does. And you're trying to grow year on year. You're trying to launch into new stores. You're trying to evolve, with the industry.
And the world changes. We're going to talk about that in a second, online and offline, but it's a ever evolving space, isn't it? With all this Facebook and Instagram. Now we've got TikTok. We love TikTok. We always talk about this.
TikTok's
Have you got that as a feature in your marketing plan?
Yeah. We spend some of our budget on TikTok, but most of our budget right now is still on Facebook, Instagram, and Google. TikTok is still probably trying to figure out its algorithm in terms of paid ads, and the data that they give you. It's not as accurate as Facebook. Facebook was. Now it's not so accurate with the Apple privacy changing.
Right. What's actually, just while we're on that, because I do want to ask a bit more about obviously the product and the journey of how it started, but just out of those sort of platforms, which one do you find the most success the brand gets out of Instagram, TikTok, Facebook? For you guys?
For us, it was Facebook.
Facebook,
yeah,
right.
And then probably Instagram. Then Google. Google's extremely important. For anyone that's wanting to start a brand, I would suggest that, you're putting a lot of focus and energy into Google and SEO. Because if someone sees your ads on Facebook, they may just think, this is another Facebook or Instagram brand. So they then Google to see if you're legit, to see if you have reviews, to see what's been said about your product. And then if you're spending money on Google ads and SEO, then you most likely you should come up one of the top.
Right. So one of the things that I loved about this product and I felt was really unique, not just like obviously the product's great, but from a marketing perspective, was that it was pink. So can you just explain like the thought process? How calculated was that to sort of?
Yeah, we thought it would be attractive to the millennials, and you know, our demographic at the time was, I guess we're probably looking at 18 to 25, but as we've matured as a business and as a brand, it's probably 25 to 34 now. Yeah. But yeah, we always wanted the brand to be pink. And now with new ranges that we're releasing and launching over the next year or two, we'll probably deviate a little bit away from that. But we'll still come back to that, you know, at some point.
How many products have you got all up, roughly?
We just released our last product last month. It was an Australian algae gel mask. It was our ninth SKU.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have plans to probably have 20 SKUs in the next, 2-3 years.
It's awesome.
How's it been as the business has scaled? Like, has that been challenging or has that been exciting? Because you've gone from rapid growth in a 4-year period, which is really not long.
Yeah, it's exciting, but it's always like growing pains, especially when you have more products. Logistically with COVID, it's been a nightmare. Then, shifting away from online and putting some focus into offline and retail stores, that's a whole nother business as well. Online's quite easy logistically because you just use 3PL companies where you might have like 3 3PL companies around the world. We have, at the moment, one in Australia and one in UK. That way customers in Europe and UK are getting their products quicker, and in Australia they are as well. But then when you're dealing with retailers, they want the products in a specific way and so on. So that's probably the biggest challenge. And then also staff, like finding people that really want to work for the brand and for the business and actually growing the business. That's, also difficult as well. We're lucky right now that we have a great team and everyone working with us right now. They're all on board to help us grow.
How many do you have staff members
We're
now?
a team of 6 at the moment, but we have a lot of like outsourced people that we use that are almost like full-time, like they're contractors, but we're a main part of their business. So maybe our whole team would be probably 20.
Right. One of the things when we had Liam on from Bay Juice recently, he was speaking to us about some of their co-founders and how like they, through their sort of growing pains of starting, they started to figure out who was like strong in one area and they sort of, diverse their roles. What's sort of yours and Manny's, I guess, strengths, and have you guys got sort of more specific roles now?
Yeah, so Manny focuses on marketing,
purely
just creating content with agencies, working with the Google Ads buyer, the Facebook buyer, and working with the marketing team in-house. And then I'm more operations and finance and offline, so distribution. So he focuses purely online and making sure that the ROAS is high, that we're getting the average order value is high, the conversion rate is high, all these online things that matter. And then I'm focusing on opening new doors with distributors, with retailers, and then operations side as well as finance.
So when you started, was it specifically just online?
Yeah, it was, but our biggest probably milestone was in 9 months when we launched with Priceline.
So how did that come about? Like, what were those first conversations like?
So we were pretty dumb actually at the time that we started. We didn't know that Priceline had its own headquarters. So you just need to talk to one person at Priceline. Instead, we were databasing every Priceline store.
I love that.
So we had 400 Priceline stores, database, me and him working for 4 weeks. And then we found out that there's actually just one buyer that you need to get in front of.
Oh my God.
And then luckily enough, they said yes. But this was like going back to like knowing your strengths and weaknesses. Our strengths were online, and we didn't want to just risk doing a deal with the retailer that we had no idea about it. We were 21 years old at the time. Like we didn't want to, I guess, dive into something that could potentially hurt the business. So what we did is we found a distributor, and we found a distributor that's worked with Priceline with multiple brands and ensuring that the deal is safe and sound. So that's what we did. So now in Australia we have an exclusive distributor. And they have sales reps, they have the network with the buyers and the marketing team, and they do most of the work in terms of retailers.
How hard was it to find that distributor?
Wasn't that hard. In terms of finding distributors and buyers and retail stores, in that sense, Manny and I's, like my business partner's and I's philosophy is like nothing's hard in that sense. You just go on Google and you just keep working hard and just looking at other brands to see if they've got it on their own online store. It wasn't that hard, but it was convincing them to take us, which was hard. And it's the same thing when you get on shelves. Getting into Priceline and luckily we just launched into Chemist Warehouse as well this month. Getting into those stores, it's not that difficult. If you work hard enough, you get it. It's making sure that you sell through. And that's the hard thing because you're competing against thousands of products.
Yeah.
You're on shelf against literally thousands of products. So that's what's probably the most difficult part.
Does that bring more pressure in a sense? Because there's obviously now ownership on you guys that you got to really push the business, push the marketing to warrant the investment of Priceline and so forth?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. They send through sales data every week. Some of them do every month. And if you have a dip, then they're going to email you and they're going to ask you what's going on. But we're lucky we have a good relationship with them. And we work together to make sure that there's enough money being invested into the retailers, into catalogs, into discounting, into in-store promotion to make sure that it's actually coming off the shelves.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just send me and Jake and we just buy the lot, sales to the roof.
It fascinates me though, because like you mentioned, there's 1,000 products like at Priceline and Chemist Warehouse, but there's like 1 million products in the market.
Correct.
So it's really hard to get them to those shelves. Like, I don't think we're giving that enough credit. So like, did you guys have to do like a presentation? Like, did you have to really go be like diligent around the numbers with people to get that?
Yeah, correct. The biggest thing when you're talking to distributors and retailers is you want to make sure that your numbers are right, because otherwise you can be left with like no margins and make no money at the end of an order. So that was our biggest thing, is making sure our numbers were right and that the numbers stacked up. And then also, we had to sit in with the buyers and present the brand to them and tell them and convince them why our product will sell on shelves. And we walked through a marketing strategy with them that was like, look, once the product is on shelves, we're going to use our marketing strategies like micro-influencers and Facebook ads to bring people to your store. Maybe consumers that have never walked in your store before will now walk into your store because of our brand. And we're able to convince them, and luckily that it paid off and it actually worked, because that's what we did. And instead of having a girl post about available, at alyaskin.com.au, it was like now Alya Skin is now available in the nearest Priceline store near you. So
cool.
That's what worked
That's
for
the
us
value
most.
for them, isn't it?
Correct.
It's all about value, and it's spot on. And you're bringing new audience in. They go, well, they might go shopping and spend another $40 and beef up their order.
And when they see that, they're very happy.
With just like, this is a little bit left field of the business, but obviously with the success came a lot of eyes on you and Manny. Like, you guys were on the news, all that sort of stuff. More people were aware of who you are. Was any of that stuff like difficult as well? Because big part of it, I'm sure why you did it wasn't for that, but that naturally has come with it, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely didn't struggle with it. I would say if I had my time again, it's so hard, because when I look at it, I would say, okay, it definitely worked for the business, and everyone started talking about the brand. Like, it became a really well-known brand in Australia, which was amazing. But I think it puts a lot of expectation on you.
Yeah.
And mentally that can be exhausting, because now everyone, we had our numbers out at one point and what revenue that we were doing, and people just straight away, I guess I wouldn't say that they look at you differently, but they kind of, they hold you to this expectation, and you hold yourself to this expectation. And that means that when there is a little bit of a dip, you start to, I guess, you start to think the worst. What are people going to think of me if it doesn't succeed? If you fail, are people going to look at me differently? So I think that's probably the one thing that, you struggle with when you put yourself out there that much. But it had its pros. Like, we had a bunch of sales from, being on Channel 9, being, spoken about and published in Daily Mail. I think to this day online, our biggest ever day was when we did $200,000 in a day in like 20 hours when Daily Mail wrote about us.
That's unbelievable.
That was our biggest day. And that was like not even in 24 hours. Like, that was in like 20 hours, because it started at like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or something. That was the biggest day we've ever had. I think.
What,
online.
did you just woke up and it went through like Shopify?
So we woke up
Shopify?
Yeah, Shopify.
You turn the thing on?
He's like, what is going on with this?
Mate, we're a little funny still.
We're off to Hawaii,
yeah,
mate.
when we first launched Ricks, we had I think we had our first sale, and my mate had a boat party and he had the music on. He's like, fuck it. He's like, drinking game when it goes ka-ching, and it's fucking, it probably went ka-ching twice. I can only imagine yours. It probably went ka-ching like literally 20,000 times.
Must be the night. That'd be like an adrenaline.
Oh, the ka-ching's the best noise. And sometimes when your phone's on loud, you're like, oh, fucking turn that down.
Well, I think we would have done I think our average order value, because it was still early, like in the early days, we only had a few products. Our average order value would have only been $60. I think we did like 3,500 units in 3,500 orders. So in those 24 hours. So going back to your question, like, It's a great question, actually, because there's pros and cons to it. If I had my time again, would I do it again? Probably, yeah. Just because of the sales that we got from it and the brand awareness.
Yeah, that's a
You
good
take one for the team.
take one for the team.
Yeah, 100%.
But they were plastered everywhere. I remember, and I was thinking, like, when you put into context, I never really thought about it. Like, you're only 21. Like, it's a lot to deal with, let
old are you
alone
now?
run a business.
26 now.
26, 5 years ago. Yeah, you got to do it. It's the biggest reach you can get. That's amazing.
With this industry, because from the outside anyway, it seems like a very female-dominated industry for purchases. Like for me, if I'm ever using like a face mask, it's usually pushed by a female onto me. Because you have more visibility of, I guess, your buyers and been around for a while, do males get involved in this space? Are there males buying the product and utilising it?
Yeah, there are. I would probably say like 12% of our 12% of our customers are males, but I'm not sure if that's buying for themselves or buying for their girlfriends.
Okay.
But yeah, stay tuned because I think there will be something in the.
There we go. Exclusive Aces in
I got a couple of blemishes last week, mate.
I think there will be something in the men's space coming soon, which is exciting.
That's great.
Yeah, given, as I said, just this leads to the next question being like a very female-dominated market. You guys are two guys running it and founding it. So I assume naturally you guys haven't come in like being skincare experts. So how much like research study have you guys done? And leading to that, the next wave of products you bring out, like how much depth of research?
We're just constantly paying for research and development. We have an in-house team that's like 2 of our staff members are experts in product development. And then we also work with outsourced consultants for product development. And then we also have manufacturers. We have multiple manufacturers across Australia. And they help with formulations and development as well.
That's fascinating.
And then moving towards like new products, we'll just have to continue working with them to make sure that we're continuing to release like quality products at an affordable price, because that's where we want to be. We want to continue to just launch Australian-made products at an affordable price for everyone.
Just on that, just if anyone out there listening, watching doesn't know what the products cost, what do they cost?
They range from $19.99 to $49.99.
Yeah, that's great.
Wow, so anyone can buy them.
Correct. So both of our masks are $49.99, and then our cheapest product, the cleanser, would be $19.99.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
There you go.
One of the questions we love asking, and this separate to sort of revenue and, green and red sort of columns, but like, is there been like a bit of a pinch yourself moment that the business has taken you and money to? You're like, this life is just so cool. Like, it's crazy a pink clay mask can take us here, for example.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a like pinch myself moment. I think when you're in it, you don't appreciate it so much because you're just working so hard. But it's given me an amazing life. Like I will always like love the business for what it's given both Manny and myself, and being able to travel the world and I guess work from anywhere. I think that's what I love the most. But I also like where we both get most satisfaction from is like the community of girls and family that we've built around the brand. Like to have a Facebook group with 22,000 members that are just diehard members talking about not only the brand and the product, but actually asking each other questions about their personal lives and, what did you do in this scenario and what did you do in that scenario? I think that's what's most important to us, because skincare is like, it's such a competitive industry and there's so many products out there that for us, where we see our point of difference is the community that we're trying to build and having a loyal customer base.
Just on that, and I reckon you probably both would have some good feedback, but like repeat buyers, and that's obviously a big part. Like, was there specific strategy around that early doors, like, to communicate or to warrant, hey, we really appreciate your investment. How do we get them back on board?
Yeah, like offering discount codes on their second purchase, third purchase, I'm sure you have with your brand. And then constantly engaging with them through like EDMs, Instagram, Facebook. That's what's so important. They just want to feel like that you care. And like as founders, Manny and I absolutely do care. Like that's what we love. Like that's why we're doing this. If we can continue to engage with our customers, then, we'll be happy running this business for a long time to come.
Yeah, there's nothing more important. I actually got a Rick's phone, so I called the top 100 customers. It's actually funny. Not many people like the calls these days. And they're like, millennials, like, g'day. So literally, g'day, mate, it's co-founder here, Tommy Sherrod from Rick's Ayla. Who's that, mate? It's like number 2.
Have you actually done that before? Have you just started calling people?
Our first few months out of footy, I was like, fuck it, I'm calling the top 100. And I reckon only 30 of the 100 thought it was me.
Oh, really? I thought it was a piss take.
Yeah, they were like, mate, don't know, or just didn't know who the fuck I was. And I was like, mate, like you've ordered that many sunnies, just want to say thank you. He's like, who's this, mate? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, mate, you've bought the same pair like this many times. Like, I just wanted to ask why. He's like, mate, fucking festivals, snap them all the time. You're a champion, mate. Got to go back to work. See you later. I'm like, but the reason for that call was the same. You care so much. You just wish you could just say thank you to everyone, at once, but it's not that easy.
I was going to say, is it hard, particularly when the business is scaling and you've got limited resources to connect? Like, it must be hard to give that to everyone.
Yeah, that's why you've got a team.
Yeah.
And just to constantly look at who's been purchasing and just engage with them and send them an email, even say a thank you or discount code, or have a pop-up on the website that, we have a pop-up on the website now that I think for even new customers where you may get, a percentage up from 10 to 50% off. And customers love that.
Yeah. And we have a code as well, like a family friends code. We're launching some like leisure, so we're going to go down the clothing route. But t-shirts, sometimes just flick them in. Repeat customers, chuck them a t-shirt.
Right.
Anything that you can do, hats, whatever that you can just say.
Point of difference.
Yeah, you didn't order that, but we appreciate you. Repeat customers are so the loyalty is important, and the hardest thing is actually getting new customers. But you got to look after the repeat customers.
Are you guys using a 3PL company, or are you doing it yourself?
We still do it ourselves because the Sunnies aren't that big, not as cheap as well. So like we're probably not moving as many numbers to be able to do that at the moment. But I've looked into it. It's probably just not at the probably not the right time at the moment. Yeah. But as if we were to go overseas and all that kind of stuff, 100%.
Yeah.
Just not ready for them yet.
What would you say the biggest challenge has been for you guys since starting? Has there been any sort of clear challenge you run into?
Yeah, I would say that global strategy and global expansions, it's not easy. It's definitely hard especially when we've put so much focus into the Australian market. I wouldn't say that we forgot about the rest of the world, but this is where we're from. This is it's our country. It's like we have built a strong brand because of Australia. So to then try and focus on other territories, it's hard. And I would say probably that's been our biggest challenge. But slowly, we've been able to now land some retailers overseas. And I think that's probably, exciting. And I think you need that retailer to give the brand credibility.
Yeah.
Like selling online overseas, if they've never heard of your brand before, it's quite difficult to convince, a new customer to purchase on their first time. But once they see, oh, you're in Shoppers Drug Mart in Canada or you're in Superdrug in the UK, they're like, oh, this isn't just an Instagram brand. This is actually, a credible brand. Then it makes it much easier.
How many, for the listeners anyway, how many markets are you guys in now, countries outside of Australia?
So we're probably, in terms of online, we sell everywhere.
Yeah.
Except we're not selling in the US at the moment, but everywhere else except the US. And then offline in stores, we're probably in 7 markets. So Australia, New Zealand, UK, Canada, Middle East, and China.
That's incredible.
It is. It's massive.
4 years ago.
And I think we're now in 4,000 or 5,000 stores across the world.
So volume's just pumping. You have to be on top of the numbers, Jake.
Oh, he's the finance guy. He's running.
No wonder he doesn't sleep.
It's amazing how he looks this good. Mate.
Good looking rooster.
I'm not bags, man.
Totally, mate. Bar Band will do that to you.
Yeah, Bar Band, go there before a podcast. Yeah, that's incredible, mate. Well done.
Thanks,
it's
man.
so fucking hard to run a business and at that scale as well. What's your second biggest, I guess, country? Is Australia number one?
Yeah, Australia would be number 1 and then the UK.
UK 2.
So the UK would be 2.
Sneak in the third?
I would say Canada.
Yeah.
Did you say Saudi? You're in Saudi as well?
Yeah. So in the Middle East, we're in I think 300 stores in Saudi Arabia. So we have a distributor over there who's he married an Australian. So he's visiting here all the time. So it's easy for it to be face to face.
That's massive.
And he's been really good lately. So I think he's launched us into 3 different retailers, and now it's about, again, like I said before, it's actually about getting them off the shelves.
Right.
So we're working with him tirelessly on different marketing strategies to make sure that they come off the shelves.
Right. With your position in the business, are you kind of structured in how you work and how you operate through the week, or do you kind of just move with the way the business moves? Like, how's your sort of?
Yeah, we're both pretty flexible, Manny and I. Like we kind of run it like it's a family business. There's no hierarchy. There's not too much structure. It's more we have team meetings and so on, like once a week, and we have individual meetings and whips and so on. But we're both flexible with how we work in the hours that we work. Sometimes he works from home. Sometimes I work from home. Sometimes I'm working whilst I'm overseas. But because we're like best mates, it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
Like we have so much trust in each other that we never We've never had a fight about the business ever in 4 years.
That's incredible.
We've had a fight about other things outside the business, but never about the business ever, because we both know that we just want the best for the business. And none of us are like, we've both been brought up, from similar, like with similar morals and values from our families, that like money's great and making money is awesome, but not at the expense of, doing wrong by someone else.
Yeah, do you know what? This is actually one of the things I give you credit for. I reckon you're a very humble person. Every time, like, you would never know, like, James's success, James's family. You treat people in a manner, and it's I think one of your good qualities. And I assume money's very similar, because I think in business that's a really powerful trait, and particularly with you being really good with people.
It's massive. It's why people want to work with you. It's why people want to purchase your products. It's massive, and well done. It's some people do get the big, once they start turning over high volume and a lot of money, they change. So it's a credit to you and the team, really.
Thanks, boys.
It's fantastic, mate. We've spoken about a fair bit of the business, online, offline. What's been probably the biggest challenge you've had to face over the last few years? Was it? I mean, we just had COVID.
COVID would have changed the business.
So I remember what happened with COVID, which was quite scary. Like in March 2020, we had sold, say, 3,000 or 4,000 orders across like a few days. But what had happened is the product wasn't ready yet from the manufacturer, but the manufacturer's in Melbourne. So they were filling it, and we were going to get the product like the next day or in 2 days. So I'd sold it, and it was just going to be like a 2-day delay, which was fine. But then COVID hit, and then my manufacturer's calling me and telling me, oh, we're not sure if we're an essential business and we may have to shut. So I'm freaking out, because refunding the customers is fine. That's fine. But the problem is that you spend a lot of money on Facebook to acquire the customer, and Facebook's not going to give you your money back.
Yeah.
So that was probably the scariest moment in the business. And I honestly thought at that point I was going to lose the business, because I think we had done like, $500,000 in the last 10 days in sales. And I was like, we probably spent $100,000 on Facebook ads, or $150,000 on Facebook ads. And then you've got, shipping and so on as well. So that was probably the scariest moment, and dealing with, I guess, the struggles with COVID. Logistically, everything is delayed. Everything is more expensive. I just got a quote the other day. It's, apparently we're not, the COVID doesn't exist anymore. But the other day, I just got a quote to ship a product that's this big to the UK, $4 a unit.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
like that's a unit.
Yeah, you're going through the same thing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Overseas by air. And if you're shipping by sea, it takes 3 months.
Yeah, you've got no choice. You honestly got no choice.
Correct. So I would say COVID's been a struggle for a lot of businesses, but we also did get lucky that we were aggressive through COVID as well. Like we stuck to our guns. We kept spending money on Facebook, and our CPA, like our cost per acquisition, dropped dramatically through COVID.
And we spoke about COVID and how it's actually affected the online business a lot. Do you want to touch on what you were saying earlier about Facebook ads and how difficult they are these days?
So I would say, pre-COVID, Facebook was a beast. And then the first 9 months of COVID, it became like the most profitable marketing platform ever. And every brand was making a fortune. We were spending, for every dollar that we were spending, we were making $8 to $9. And then what happened was Apple obviously were getting concerned about how much Facebook was growing and how much Google were growing. And I don't know if this is why they did it, but it just seems, a bit coincidental when they came out with this whole privacy settings for both of the platforms. So now when you download a new app with a new iOS update, it asks you if you want to allow the app to track your movements. And most people say no, which means if someone goes and Google's Pink Clay, then when they go on Facebook or Instagram, then our ads won't pop up. So we're now just advertising blindly. So which means it's driven the price of acquisition through the roof. And that's why we've had to shift to offline. So it's still a profitable marketing platform for us, but it's not as profitable as it once was. But I think for Manny and I to realize that quite early on and shift our focus into offline and launch into new retailers like Chemist Warehouse and Superdrug in the UK, it's kind of balanced out for the business.
That's crazy. That's like, so it's effectively your like business model's kind of flipped really quickly in a sense.
It used to be 80-20 online, offline. Now it's 50-50.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it's funny because I've spoken to a few CEOs and I asked them like, what's sort of your job like? But elementary questions are like, it's literally just putting out fires.
Yeah.
Like constantly putting out fires. And I imagine for you two as founders of like brands and products, that's the last 2 years has been that, like moving through different fires and so forth.
The scale that James is going through is a different level of the Rixies, but mate, yeah, you're spot on. And to be able to recognise that is almost one of the most important things. I mean, I'm sure you can recognise it easily when you're looking at your your turnover. It's not the same at 1 to 8 or 9, but yeah, it's a fantastic effort just to recognise it and then flip it. How hard was it to then build the offline so quickly?
We were lucky we had distributors in place already, but we had to move quickly with retailers. Like we wanted to launch like ASAP. So we were offering retailers, that we would essentially spend a lot of money on marketing in store just so that they would take us like out of like launch dates, out of review dates, because every retailer may have like 2 review dates, maybe like March and September, where they take products, and then outside of those 2 months, they don't take any products.
You're just sitting ducks.
Correct. So you had to work a little bit hard and invest more into the market, but it ends up, I guess, coming back. So it's fine.
Point of sale wise, did you go hard?
Yeah. Yeah, now all of our products in like shelf ready packaging, so they're sitting like super cute in a little box, in a little pink box, instead of just having it on the shelves. So point of sale is definitely important for sure.
Yeah. A common topic on this platform, Aces in Business, is a lot of the people we talk to have been quite young, and a big part of their journeys, they've had mentors and different people that have been there supporting them. For you, do you have certain people that you turn to when the business is tough, or just in general from a life perspective?
Yeah, I have. I think it's the most important thing. If you want to start your business and you're a young entrepreneur, I think having mentors is the most important part of growing, part of learning. Like Manny and I don't know everything. I think that was because Manny had like 2 successful businesses before he launched this, and he was young. Like I think he sold his first one for $1 million when he was 18 years old.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so
he just drops that so lightly, by the way.
Yeah,
we haven't spoken about Manny before you keep going.
We need to give him some credit, because I think he's an integral
genius, part of it. He's a very, very smart guy as well. And he launched a business when he was 17 and called Barbas and Zachary. So they were selling watches, fashion accessories. It was the most genius thing I've ever seen. So instead of sending out the watch to the influencer for the influencer to post, he would send a photo of the watch on a girl's wrist, just a random girl's wrist, and say, if you post this and you get, for every 3 sales you get, we'll give you X amount of dollars. And they would do that. So he didn't even have to send the watch to them. And they would only get something out of it if they sold.
That is unbelievable.
So it's not even their wrist, but the people think it's their wrist.
Exactly right, yeah.
So content, bang, no time in between, boom, boom.
Exactly right. You have to wait for shipping.
Genius.
Track the sales.
Correct. So he sold that, I think him and his business partner at the time sold that for, it was $1 million. And then he went and launched the teeth whitening business that I spoke about before. But because he'd been so successful, and he's the kind of person, he just does everything himself. So when we became business partners, he's like, James, why do you want to ask that person for help? Or why do you want to ask that person? I'm like, bro, we don't know everything. Like we're 21 years old, so I think maybe he was 22, I was 21. I was like, we're so young. Let's use our network and let's try and get some advice from people. And now he's much more like that, but he still leans on me to get the advice. He would prefer me to do it. So probably my biggest mentor was probably Andrew Bassett, the president of St Kilda.
Seek.
Yeah, and founder of Seek. So he's one of my dad's best friends, and he's probably my, I've probably got 3 mentors. We've got 2 advisors that are actually equity partners in the business, and they're vested in over 3 years just for small equity to give us advice. And then Andrew Bassett's just a friend, and he's been like such a good mentor and always giving good advice because he's done it and he's been through it.
Is there any standout advice, any standout conversations you would have had with him that always?
Yeah, I think I went to his office maybe 3 weeks ago. I've been getting pretty bad headaches. I've had a headache for like 10 months. That hasn't gone. I've had like MRIs. I had an MRI done. I've had blood tests. Everything's come back fine. So it must just be stress. And I went and just spoke to him about it, and I said, like, did you ever experience anything like this? And he said, naturally he deals with it much better. Just some people have got it, some people haven't. And clearly I don't handle the stress now as well as I would like to. But he just said to me that at the end of the day, it's just a business, and like it's not part of my identity. If I have to take some time off and that means, sacrificing the performance of the business, it doesn't really matter. Like I'm James Hachem, I'm not James Hachem Alya Skin. And I think I I would say separating those two things was like him telling me to separate those two things was great advice, and made me realize like if for whatever reason I need to step aside because of my, I'm in too much pain, because sometimes I can't even work. Like my head's killing, right now I have a headache talking to you guys. So seriously,
Wow.
like right now I actually have a headache. Like it's been 10 months every day, but it's not so bad right now.
So is it actually stress related? Like
it has to be. Like it is, I've done every test under the sun. And the last 12 months have been quite stressful with work because of COVID and because of, Facebook and so on. So it makes a lot of sense. So, that was probably the best advice.
Mate, that's great advice. Yeah, that's because I think a lot of people, and I can relate to it, mate, sometimes it's like work, and it's in your DNA to constantly go after goals, and you kind of forget your health at times.
You need to learn how to switch off in business. Yeah. And that's one thing that I'm just not good at.
Yeah.
And meditating
I would agree.
may be something that I need to look at, because I've tried sometimes, but I'm not very good at it.
How can you imagine this bloke? Like a monkey in the cage.
I used to do it at footy. Sitting there looking, open my eyes, waiting for someone to look at me and just go.
It's
good for you though.
100%. It's very, very good for you. And for a lot of people out there with like mental health issues and anxiety and, business stress, it's the best thing for you.
Do you have this? I use a couple of apps. There's Calm, there's Insight, but there's like a sleep app. Have you ever tried that?
No, I haven't.
So when you go to bed, right, a few of the boys swore by. I said, I started doing it. And it actually has signals for your brain. It's just music. It's someone talking you to sleep. It goes for about 20 minutes, this one that I like. But you put it on before bed, just quiet enough, not too loud. And it actually helps you relax. Because I'm a bit like you. For some reason, at night, I can't stop fucking thinking. I've got a cracker idea. There we go. Got to call James. Forgot to call him yesterday. Like something like that. I'll go, fucking hell, I forgot that yesterday. But this thing like allows you to just, if you listen to the music, not the music, but the background noise, this person talking you through this, I guess it's like a meditation sleep routine. Man, I swear by it. And a little bit of magnesium as well. I reckon it's
I've been using some magnesium
it's really good.
Taking some as well.
Really good.
Yeah.
So, and maybe, and the next level is like a little bit of a cold shower after. That's next level.
I've heard that's super good. Everyone that I know that does it says it's.
I do it every morning, cold shower.
Yeah, I've been doing it a bit lately, but it does, mate. And on extreme levels, that's why I named all three. But yeah, just try that. I reckon it might help getting to sleep. Don't know if it helps the headache, but it might help you get to sleep earlier so you're feeling a bit better.
Yeah, switching off is very important.
It's hard though, man, because it's a 24/7 business. I always tell people this.
Do you find for you when you're so passionate about something, and obviously the journey you and money have had, you're in bed and like you might be with your partner or family and you're just like fucking thinking about
some
business?
people talk to me and I have no idea what they're saying half the time because I'm in my own world. That's my honestly, that's my, if my friends insult me, especially Kevin, who you know really well, that's the one thing that he tells me off all the time. He's like, "Are you even listening to me?"
Yeah.
Sometimes if someone's talking and I say, "Oh wow," oh that's nice.
You're like me. I'm looking over the shoulder, I'm assessing everything else.
I have no idea what you're even talking about now because I'm thinking about like something else. I'm thinking about work.
I can understand you so much, mate.
So I had a mate at school like that. Actually, Toddy used to go, yeah. Mate, I'm fucking living. Listen, he goes, nah.
That's definitely one of my worst traits. So I'm trying to live. I think you need to live in the moment. Like that's the one thing that I'm not the best at, and I'm trying to work on it. For sure, because that helps with everything. It helps with mental health, helps with anxiety.
Yeah,
it helps with my head. I'm sure it'll help with my headaches, stress. If you just live in the moment, and be like, look, you're 26 years old. You've got a good business and you've got a good family and you've got your health. Like that's all that matters. Yeah. But so many times you get caught up in thinking of what's going to happen in next year, what's going to happen if this doesn't happen, or what's going to happen if that does happen. So
the Mickey Zarafa, stay present.
Stay present.
Yeah, for sure.
Worry about the now.
You know what? One of his best things he said to me, he's like, win or learn.
Yeah,
and just looked at me with these steely eyes going, all right, Mick, fucking hell.
That's a good saying, no?
It's a great saying, man. It's so true.
Because I learn a lot.
Yeah. You're an idiot. Mate, I reckon are we going to open up some questions from the people, from the listeners?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. But I guess we've already touched on that. What's probably the most, before we get to that part, what has been the most enjoyable part of the gig? I think you touched on it before with travel, but is there anything else that you really enjoy? Might just be a day-to-day thing.
Probably just working with Manny, working with friends so close and growing with him, working with our team and improving skincare routines and the skin of, hundreds and thousands of females out there. Like when they send us emails and say, you've helped my acne or you've helped my 13-year-old's acne or, you've helped my eczema sometimes for whatever reason they put on that, or my dry skin. I think that's where you get the most satisfaction out of, because then you're actually helping people.
Changing lives.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, some of those before and after, they were really powerful marketing tools, but like those before and after shots you post in the early days, like the skin change of some people, it kind of legitimizes the product to a lot of people that may be skeptical or from the outside.
And if Facebook never banned it, I would be on an island. If I would be on an island somewhere in the world right now. But Facebook wouldn't let you advertise it, which is insane.
Really?
Yeah, they banned it. You can't show before and afters for skincare because they know people can edit photos and so on. And like ours are so real, and they still, they would get banned all the time. So I think the only brands that are allowed to do it, I think hair care brands, hair loss brands. I think they don't. I think they allow before and afters.
Fascinating,
Just
mate.
lucky, yeah.
Fascinating.
Before we go to the questions from a couple of people, we have a sponsor. We have a couple of sponsors of the show, mate. One of them is Caps, the home of headwear. We love that you love your American sport.
We love Caps.
Now, big shout out to
Incredible.
Caps. There's a few hats in there. Pick one of your favourites, mate. I went down to Caps the other day and loaded up. Not that one. That's the old.
You put the devil,
That's the devil, mate. That's when you put the
That's
moldies
not
on.
in Caps, mate.
I'm gonna go through these for sure.
Yeah.
Bloody
So
oath,
they've got,
mate.
mate, they've got some cracking caps. And for anyone out listening or watching, the Aces discount code's active. Mate, they got so much. I went there the other day and bought me Hornets jumper and
Look good.
Boston Celtics vintage tee, the Mitchell and Ness. But
Here we go. LA, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
there
I'm
you
not
go.
joking when I
Thanks,
said
Caps,
it,
for that.
LeBron James enthusiast. I reckon the amount of times you would have been at or crypto.com arena and he just has like a photo of LeBron James's back. Like, there he is.
He's the man.
Thanks for that.
No,
Appreciate it.
pleasure.
Hey,
But
that's
part of the
awesome.
Caps is a Caps moment. And it's the first thing that comes to mind. It's the greatest moment of your life so far. What is your Caps moment?
What's a big question, that?
Greatest moment of my life so far would be being backstage with Drake 3 months ago.
Where was it in the States?
Yeah, that was in. Where were we? We were in LA. We're in LA.
What was it, like a festival? Was it his
No,
concert?
no. It was. He did a concert, and Justin Bieber did a concert on the Friday night, and Drake did a concert on the Saturday night. And fortunately enough, one of my friends is in business with Drake, or his company is anyway. And I got there, and I just got given a ticket through someone. I think it was someone, an Aussie here. And I ran into my mate, and he passed me a VIP ticket, and he goes, "Come backstage now." And it was pretty cool. Future was there. Draymond Green walked in.
Oh, this is big.
Who else was there? There were a bunch of artists there, but it was just pretty cool seeing like Drake roaming around like the room, and he just seems like the most humble guy ever.
Yeah. I was just about to say, what's he like as a person?
Yeah, he just seems so humble.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you cross paths? Just say good day?
Yeah, well, he came and said hi to my mate, who we were just in a group with. And he was just doing it to everyone, like just going up to everyone and just saying good day and making everyone feel comfortable. And
That's awesome.
it was pretty cool. That was probably one of the coolest
I
moments.
wasn't expecting that grand of announcement.
Hey, that's
That is
what we
fucking-
love.
That is up there, mate.
That's why we love the Caps
We're
moment.
clipping that,
mate.
Braden.
The Caps moment always brings out. It could be. It's all kind of moments.
Yes.
that is probably.
That's
going to
be hard to top. That's going to be hard to top.
Just before we go past the Caps moment, did you get to chat to Draymond Green? He looks like a character.
Nah, I didn't.
Was
I
he
didn't.
bopping around the joint?
I didn't know. But he's a big poker player. A lot of these guys are like big poker players, and I know someone over there in the US who knows him well. I've heard he's like a super nice guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just seemed like, I think he was doing his own thing. Not
That's
sure.
epic.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, that's a moment.
That's a
That
great
is a moment. We've got a couple of questions here. One from Josh Ben. Appreciate anyone out there that does write in as well. It helps.
Big thank you, guys.
Helps a lot. I guess we do this for the people as much as ourselves. But what's been the greatest advertising campaign, marketing campaign you think you've implemented over the time?
Yeah, I would probably say when we first launched, to have 1,000 like micro influencers all posting at the same time in only Melbourne and Sydney, and having everyone talk about the brand, that was probably like the most powerful campaign that we had, because no one had heard about the brand before, obviously just being a new brand. And then all of a sudden, all these females are talking about this brand. It was pretty cool. It was pretty exciting. And it wasn't even the sales. The sales were great, but it was more about the impact that it made and the launch it gave us to then become a successful brand.
Was that a successful for the sales though?
Yeah, it was. It definitely was
So it
as well.
definitely worked.
Yeah.
And then you guys sat there and went, who come up with the idea and said,
let's do 1,000, but only Melbourne, Sydney.
So Manny came up with the idea to launch with micro-influencers in the US at the start. And then I said, bro, like, Manny, why don't we use girls that we know here in Melbourne and Sydney, and it will have such a bigger effect. Like, the US is such a larger market. To have 1,000 girls post is not going to do anything. Whereas in Melbourne and Sydney, it's such a small world. Everyone knows everyone. So if you just get some of the same girls in the same group posting, well, then everyone will talk about it. And then he was like, okay, let's try it. Because he never wanted to be in Australia. He always wanted to be overseas because obviously it's a bigger market and so on. And we always knew that because it was Australian made, like, we wouldn't have to spend as much money on marketing here. People would appreciate the brand more. Overseas is much more difficult. But then when I said that, he's like, all right, let's try it. And then that was what made the Australian market become our largest market. And it's been growing ever since.
And sometimes like little, like that's big wins, but like just from the idea to seeing people talk about it.
But even that decision to
That's
go
genius.
Melbourne, Sydney, and that was your launch. So you've nailed your launch. It's so important, the launch.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
appreciate that answer, mate. That's awesome. Who's been the biggest, someone's written in, who's been the biggest celebrity that's promoted your product?
I'd probably say in Australia, probably Tammy Hembrow.
Yeah.
We've worked with her a few times. I think she's got 15 million followers.
Wow.
And she converted for us. So she's probably our biggest in Australia. Yeah.
Great. Have you had, not naming anyone, but have you found it difficult sometimes? So Tammy's obviously dominated, but then you get, not Tammy's at the larger scale, but has there been an influencer there where you've loaded up and it hasn't worked? And then
multiple times. Yeah. We've paid multiple influencers $5,000 to $10,000 where we've had no sales from them. But you should look at influencer marketing as a brand awareness marketing strategy rather than a conversion.
Right.
Because even if you don't make sales from it, people are still talking about your brand. You're still getting the product and the brand in front of millions of people. So I wouldn't say that it wasn't successful. Just as a conversion ROI based, probably we've had multiple of those where it hasn't been.
Yeah. And customer surveys, are they something that you guys do? How do you seek feedback from, I guess, your customers?
So now every product that we launch, we're constantly doing customer surveys, asking our customers what they want. And then when they tell us what they want and we then make samples of the product, we then send it to focus groups to make sure that people actually like the product. So what we'll do is we'll send them 2 other brands plus our one, unlabeled. They'll try all 3. And then they'll give us their pros and cons of every product.
1, 2, 3.
Correct.
That's incredible.
That's so smart.
And then in customer surveys, we're still always now emailing, using EDMs to ask customers about their skincare routine, about what products they like the most, about what product works for them the best, how often they're using the product. Because going back to your point about retention before, you want to make sure that customers are using your products often. That way they're coming back and purchasing. That's also an important part. Like our clay mask, as much as it's our hero product, it's not a product that people use all the time because it's a heavy product. So they may only use it, we recommend 3 to 4 times a week, but they may only use it once a week because people don't have time anymore. You know, we're living in the 21st century. People don't want to wait 15 minutes for a mask. So then our other products like the serum and the cleanser and the moisturizer, they're everyday products.
Right.
So thinking about that and asking your customers about that is important.
It's brilliant.
Great answer.
Have you got any questions before I go to the last segment, Jake?
No, I think I've shot all mine off. I think one thing that I really like though about Manny and James is the glass half full kind of perspective. Like obviously through the business model change around COVID and keeping aggressive through that period, I think that takes some balls because that's a really risky move that obviously paid off. And also the expansion of products. Like from obviously you've calculated that to more everyday products that are critical for skincare routine, which it's just fantastic to see, you know, young entrepreneurs in Melbourne doing really well.
What's next? You've touched on the products that are coming. We've hinted at the men. Is that what's next? Is there anything else coming up?
In terms of just Alya or in terms of business in general?
More for you as well and the business. Is there anything that's next?
Yeah, in terms of Alya, we're going to continue just to launch new products. And hopefully we'll have different ranges come out soon in the next 12 to 18 months. And launching to new retailers is the biggest key for the business now. Growing UK market, Canadian market, Chinese market. They're our 3 biggest focuses other than landing Coles. Like that's what we really want to do right now in the next 12 months.
yeah.
So if any buyers are listening,
They're listening.
Who do we know from Coles?
Yeah.
I reckon Liam would know something
Yeah,
from
Liam,
Coles.
for sure.
Long buy though.
no, we're definitely. I think that's our next retailer that we would love to work on, and I think we're presenting them in the next few months. So that's pretty exciting. In terms of the men's, that's something that we're working on as well. Hopefully that will be probably launched this year. Maybe the end of the year. November is the aim. And then in terms of other businesses, I really want to get into the mental health space and the wellness space, and probably going into the tech space as well.
That's amazing.
So launching an app by the end of the year is probably the aim.
That's exciting, mate.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
It's great that you're going into that space. It's such an important space over the next 5 years, especially with what we've just gone through.
Yeah. Something that means a lot to Manny and I. And even, just with even the headaches and so on, like not being able to cope with the stress, I'm sure there's hundreds of people out there, or thousands that just can't even, I guess, handle everyday life, other than just business. So because it means something to both of us, we'd love to get into that space for females and males. So hopefully we'll launch something by the end of the year.
Big respect. I just actually have one that you did ask me, do I have a question? I did. My sort of last question was, do you have an end goal for Alya Skin? Like, is there, obviously, I know we've touched on the US briefly, but is there sort of a really clear end goal you guys work to, or is it more day-to-day and growth?
At the moment, we're just focusing on growth and profitability and launching into new retailers and scaling online. I'm not sure if we'll ever exit. Like we potentially will, but it's not something that we've spoken about now. If it were to ever exit, it's got to be after the next 3 to 5 years. I would suggest.
Yeah.
At the moment, we just love it so much, and
it's kind of like your baby in a sense, isn't it?
Correct.
Like it's a kid.
Correct. And a lot would have to change for both of us to have to walk away from it.
Yeah. Great answer.
Mate, this is where we have another segment from one of our sponsors, the old Rixies. It's called Rixon Retirement. So after the 3 to 5, maybe 35 years, right, you've fucking cleaned up. You've cleaned up on all the things you mentioned. What's the one place in the world where you're there for you, mate, as
Thank
well?
you.
And if
Thank
you want
you
to
so
take
much.
them back,
Appreciate
we'll
it.
give them back to you. But where's the one place in the world you'd love to put the sunnies on and just retire? What's the place?
With the Rix Eyewear?
Yeah, the Rixies on dream location.
To retire, I would probably say LA. If I'm ever going to move anywhere, like actually live out of Australia, like as a serious question, a serious answer, would probably be LA. Is the only other place in the world that I would think that I would live. In terms of to go on an island for a few months, maybe Maldives.
Maybe, love that.
Maybe Mykonos.
Yeah, there we go. We love Mykonos.
Mykonos, I don't know, St. Bart's or Saint Tropez.
Yeah, we're getting naughty now.
Rated, James.
But to actually retire somewhere, I think the only place I could move outside. I love Melbourne. Like Melbourne's amazing.
Yeah.
The people are amazing. We're not snobby. I feel like we're the least pretentious city by far out of all the cities that I've been to, like the big cities like Sydney, New York, LA, and Europe as well. So yeah, I'd probably say LA is the only other place I'd live.
That's a great answer, mate.
So if you see me in 20 years with these on,
There he is. Mate.
That'd be fantastic. And the last one we always have.
This is my favourite question,
You ask it,
Tommy.
mate.
Well, look, James, we don't ask for much favours on the channel, but we do ask our guests this common question, and we do kind of give them a nudge in hoping that they can potentially deliver. But in your perspective, now you've been on the show, you've heard about the platform, who in your network do you think would be a really great guest for us to interview?
in my network, who do I think?
Or even just a thought that you might not even know the person, but someone you think would be a great podcasting business with?
I think that if I can help you guys get like a senior exec, I think that would be pretty cool. For me, as someone that loves business and being an entrepreneur, I get more starstruck from meeting senior execs and CEOs than I do athletes and celebrities, other than Drake. But seriously, I think that's what a lot of podcasts are missing. If you can land someone like that, and I've got a few people in mind that I could, we can talk about after the show, but I think that's someone that you should try and approach for your next.
Absolutely.
Next
This is
show.
the first one that he's given us a great answer without name dropping anyone.
It's good. Keeps it open.
It keeps it open.
It's great
Keep
feedback.
the listeners guessing.
It is
Yeah, great
aces in
feedback.
business, and it's someone
Great
that you
feedback.
probably go talk to, and the
I
mentors.
don't think we've
that are-
had a senior exec on the show.
No, we haven't. So,
No.
and that's what it's all about. And it's what you want, what we want. We want everyone to, listen to these people and learn. I must say, mate, like, thank you so much.
Thanks, James.
Before I
Appreciate
wrap
it.
you up, thank you to everyone that's listening. But, mate, thank you so much for your for your honesty and I guess just being so real. And there's so much value there for not only ourselves and Braden over there, but for all the listeners. There's a lot of people that want to start businesses and they don't even know where to turn. And there's so much value that come out of your mouth today. And really appreciate your time. Wishing you all the best in the future. You're going to go on to do great things, and I hope you sort that headache out, mate.
So do I. Don't worry.
We'll get you there.
The only time that I don't feel is when I'm at electric.
There we go.
I think I got a headache. I got a headache as well.
Oh, Bar Bambi, shout out the Russian.
There you go.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it, mate.
And
Awesome.
anyone out there listening, make sure you head online. The website is
alyaskin.com.au.
check it out. Smash those masks. Look after the skin.
Available in Priceline and Chemist Warehouse.
There we go.
Unless you're overseas, you're going to
Superdrug in the UK.
There we
There
go.
you go.
That's
Episode
it.
7.
Aces and business, you beauty.
Thanks for listening to another episode. If you enjoy listening to our podcast, please feel free to hit us up on our social channels at Ausmerican Aces. If you're entertained, inspired, or feel more educated, please share it with your friends and family because we appreciate the support. Righto, catch you on the next one.